Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. This is Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, here with you on No Soundbites Allowed. Just time for another quick thought. I know it's 2020, and we've already thanked everyone for 2019, and we're looking for great growth in 2020. We're sure we're going to hit 4,000 subscribers. That's our target this year. But we want to also talk about what's going on in 2020. There's been a lot that's been happening already, and there's a lot more that we can expect to see happening in the near term. Matter of fact, this is time for our predictions. We want to make some predictions about what's going to happen in 2020. What can we be sure of? And that's both at the state level for New York State, and we also want to look at what's going on nationally, maybe even internationally. So we want to start off with a couple things that we're pretty sure of. Now, I would have said that Julian Castro is going to drop from the 2020 presidential election. But in fact, he's already made the announcement this morning, and you've probably heard it by now. We have some noise in the background. But Julian Castro is no longer running for president in 2020. Shocked, I know. Everyone is just astounded that he would drop out of the race because so many people knew who he was. But he's not going to be alone. You're going to see him joined by Amy Klobuchar. You're going to see Cory Booker. You're going to see Marianne Williamson. You're going to see Mayor Michael Bloomberg and Steny Hoyer. They're all of them are going to be dropping out. Basically, these people are not in the race. And for all of you who are in the Yang Gang, don't be surprised when probably by February, Andrew Yang is going to drop out of the race too, because he just can't do math. So they're all going to be out, but who do we predict, will be in the 2020 race? Well, we've long said since October of 2018, we've been saying it was going to be an all-woman ticket, that it would be Kamala Harris and or Elizabeth Warren, one being president, one being vice president. Slight amendment to that now. Looking at the race, looking that Kamala Harris has already dropped out, the fact that we saw Warren never really move past third place. We have to amend that a little bit. And we still believe that there's going to be a woman on the ticket for the Democrats. You're probably going to either see a Biden-Kamala Harris. Well, they don't like each other that much, but you could see a Kamala Harris and Joe Biden ticket. You could see a Warren, which I think is what is more likely, is to see Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg. That would give Democrats both a woman and a gay man on the ticket. And based on the identity, gender politics that's very popular for them, that's more important than anything else. Joe Biden is an old, rich, white male. In fact, almost everybody in the Democratic Party that's running for the nomination are old, rich, and white. So it kind of throws off their message that old, rich, white people are bad. So they have to have something that throws that off. So I expect to see a woman as the presidential candidate with a vice president, which would be a male. Since Julian Castro, Cory Booker are out, they're not viable candidates. And since Kamala Harris has already left the race, the next logical choice, I believe, is going to be Pete Buttigieg. He's gay and he's young, so that makes him the near perfect choice for them. So that's what my bet is. Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg in the president, vice president roles. Now, what else can we see? In 2020, looking at the the congressional races, speaking about the New York 22nd, I believe it's going to be one of the top 3 races in the nation for Congress. I believe it's going to be between $15 to $17 million all said and done for that race. I believe that you're going to see the race is going to be between Claudia Tenney, who was the former New York 22nd Congresswoman, and the current Congressman Anthony Brindisi. They're going to go head-to-head. And we're going to see those two go in a rematch of 2018. Right now, I believe polling internally has been showing that Anthony Brindisi is underwater. He has about a 53% unfavorable rating, and he has nothing to show for it. He has no gains, no significant legislation. He has a report that was put in. And more importantly, he's going back to the well that he went into in 2017, promising to lower cable cable subscription rates for those customers who have Spectrum and across the nation. And he has had nothing but failure with that. Since he first started, he promising that he was going to lower rates. Rates have increased 2 times. He has no support from New York State Democrats. He has no support from anyone in Congress on any bill, really. So he has a long way to go. And even though he's sitting on $1.1 million, I think most of the money is going to be outside spending, and it's just not going to be enough. I believe the district goes back to the Republicans in 2020, and I think that Claudia Tenney wins the race. Mind you, I also predict that you're going to see in the money that's been raised, there are 3 candidates there. There's George Phillips, a perennial candidate. He's run, this is the 4th time he's run for Congress. We don't believe he's raised over $250,000, even though he's been in the race now for a year as a declared candidate. We believe that Steve Cornwell, who was formerly the DA of Broome County, he also, we don't believe he's raised $100,000 in a year of campaigning. And between the 2 of them, less than $300,000 has been raised. It shows no confidence. They can't beat Anthony Brindisi. They're out of the race, we believe, and we'll see Claudia Tenney come in probably with more money raised in 1 quarter than both of them have been able to raise in a year, and that's going to be the momentum that just pushes her through. That's our prediction at this moment. Looking at New York State, you're going to look at voter fraud. There is going to be massive voter fraud that's going to be shown in March and April based on the registrations that'll be taking place in February. That's because of the new driver's licenses law, allowing illegal aliens to have driver's licenses, and they're going to use that to be able to get voter registration, to get onto the voter rolls, and to vote. It's going to be directly voter fraud. You'll see this happen. You're going to see bail reform, where we're going to see crimes. There are going to be a number of individuals who have felonies, and they are going to be released without bail. They are going to go back and be a repeat offender, and or you're going to see them menace and intimidate the people that they were arrested for harming. So whether it's a violent crime or such as breaking and entering, muggings, robberies, drug dealing, you're going to see repeat offenders. They're going to get let out with bail. They're going to go right back. We've already seen one woman who's been, last week, was attacking Jewish people repeatedly. She went in, she was arrested for that. She came out because of no bail and went out and did it again. You're going to see a pattern of this. It's going to repeat. It's going to be based on racial bias, ethnic bias. You're going to see that based on drugs. It's just going to keep going. So keep in mind, that's what I believe is going to happen here. So that's one of my predictions. I also predict for New York State that the cost of food, vegetables, farm goods, fresh foods is going to increase. New York just allowed unions to be on farms, and with that new unionization of farms, the cost of farm fresh foods is going to increase. And you'll see that throughout all of New York's agriculture. New York will lose money in agriculture and sales because that new union cost is going to be added onto all of their products, making them more expensive, and they're going to be less likely to be bought in other places because the price is going to increase. It's the same exact thing we see with the car industry. There's another $2,000 added to every single vehicle made in the United States because of unions. And you're going to see that same thing happen in New York State with the cost of food. And that's going to hurt the economics of New York State. Already, New York State started 2020 with $6 billion in the hole. Expect that number to go to $8 billion. I expect by April, New York State will be $8 billion in the hole, taking into account how many people are leaving, and all of those people leaving are almost all of them in the middle class. New York isn't losing poor people, they're gaining poor people. What we're losing is the middle class, business owners, and those who are considered rich. They're getting out of Dodge. New York State has nothing to do with it, and so New York State will have to increase taxes again. This is on top of the increased cost of the agriculture and the cost for foods, which means that along with the minimum wage going up in New York, more people will find themselves unemployed, more people will find themselves having less than 40 hours a week of pay, and that they will have to pay more for all of their goods, both because of companies trying to cover the minimum wage and also because of the cost of food increasing because of the farms and unions. This is going to hurt New York, and more people are going to leave. New York State will lose at least 2 members of Congress for 2021 when the census is done, and I expect it could be as many as 3 people, 3 members of Congress. New York has lost its political power, but it is a progressive capital, and so there goes that. We are also predicting, looking at Plot. Plot will make another protest in the Northeast, and Antifa will probably make an attack again against Republicans in New York State. We expect that Plot in the Southern Tier region, central New York, will be holding another protest. We expect that there will be a riot before the end of the year, probably in mid-April or in the June elections, primary elections. We're going to see riots by Plot. Their rhetoric is high. They know that they have gotten national attention from the president and others for their attacks against conservatives at Binghamton University, and we believe that they are encouraged by this. They believe their terroristic tactics are positive, and they're going to go forward, and they're going to continue, and they're going to escalate, looking to get more violent, to get more attention, to try and intimidate more people. And even as Emily Jablon, the Binghamton University Republicans, Libertarians are fighting against this, they're getting support from groups like, and individuals like Binghamton University, President Harvey Stanger, and many others, Indivisible New York, Citizen Action, and other far-left fringe groups. This is going to be Central New York, Southern Tier region of New York, will become the new Portland of the East Coast, and this will be a problem. And we'll see that throughout 2020. We also predict that, speaking of Binghamton University will be the first national college, a state-run college, that will lose its funding. We believe that funding will be cut both by the New York Assembly under the leadership of Assemblyman Doug Smith and local Assemblyman Cliff Crouch, possibly Donald Pardo, jumping into this to protect her re-election bid, going against Plot, and that we're going to see this coalition of, believe it or not, Democrats and Republicans against the Plot progressive democratic socialist movement. They're going to take away the funding because Binghamton University is supporting the attack of conservatives and Republicans led by Harvey Stanger. And federally, we probably will see the President Trump's executive order denying funding for attacks against Jews and against conservatives and Republicans on college campuses, and denial of freedom of speech will be activated against Binghamton University. That will cause a loss of funding, that will hurt the local economy, and we believe that combination, plus the lack of alumni funding, which has been hit already because of the actions of Harvey Stanger, the president of Binghamton University, this will all accumulate, come together, and Harvey Stanger will be forced to resign. He will call it a change of life or personal issues, and he will wind up just resigning under pressure from the background. That's what we predict. We believe that Iran will make another attack in Iraq. They will use Iraqis as their proxy to attack the United States, and this time they will be violent. They are going to try and create another Benghazi to take down President Trump so that they can get in a weaker Democrat into office. That's their idea. I don't believe it's going to work, just as we saw President Trump immediately in an hour make a strong stand publicly and internationally, not only supporting the embassy and making people aware of what was going on, but sending in troops immediately and now reinforcing it with the 82nd Battalion. So we're going to see this come, and it's going to escalate in the next attempt. They're going to try and, Iran will try and see if they can get an attack to happen faster than the U.S. can respond. I think they will fail. and this will escalate tensions, and we will see Iran go back to its old ways, publicly announcing that they're starting their nuclear missile testing, nuclear missile efforts for a nuclear bomb, and the United States will respond by blowing up one of their facilities for that nuclear weapons manufacturer. North Korea will likely have 3 more missile launches in 2020, and we expect none of them to actually function. That's because North Korea isn't so much looking for a successful launch. They're looking for attention to gain more money and more influence, and to get President Trump back to the table to talk with them so that they can be able to feed their people. And this has always been their tactic and strategy, to get more attention, to get more funding, to get more food, because they can't do it on their own. And China just doesn't want the refugees. China, of course, will go into the trade embargo, will lose for China. They have to back down, and the United States will take a superior position there, just as the United States did with the USMCA in doing negotiations with Mexico and Canada, and won that position. China will do so as well, because as much as China wants to have a lot of bluster, as much as they want to talk about tariffs, they need the buying power of the United States, and they are too heavily invested in the United States Treasury bonds to be able to resist or to push the economy of the United States down too low. So they'll back down. It's in their best financial interest. Finally, I want to just mention the last thing that we're going to mention in the predictions today is going to be the impeachment. Democrats will finally move forward and push forward on the impeachment, probably in February, just before New York State and many states go out and do their primaries. To prevent people from getting primaried in their party, they're going to allow this to go to the Senate so that their candidates, their congressional candidates, can go out and say, talk to their radical left supporters and say, look, we did in fact impeach the president. We are trying to remove him, and that will satisfy them, holding back a lot of their primary challenges that they're afraid of right now from the left, from the Plot, Antifa, and Democratic Socialist side. And we're going to see that this vote is going to be 40, on the Democrat side, it will be 40 votes, 6 of them gone because the 6 candidates who are running for president are going to be eliminated, 50 votes, all Republican against, and 2 Republican defectors that will vote against President Trump. President Trump will not be impeached. That's what we believe right now, but we are at work, so we got to go, but we'll talk to you again very soon. Let me know what you think. Send us your messages, your responses.